1962, the Joint Chiefs of Staff put...
There's no TOS on this, right? Chatters?
How'd they know?
React content for you? Okay, we'll do it in a second.
TOS?
Terms of service.
Like you can't.
Are there terms of service violations on this?
Why would there be? Doesn't that depend on Johnny?
No, just lots of...
Oh, he's using lots of...
Did you change the title? What did you do? Oh, no.
I did not say that.
Why'd you change the title, Alex?
Oh, he changed the title. The secret plan that almost ended Cuba. Oh.
What was it? Why terrorism?
Why
the
they
US
plan
did
terrorist
terrorism?
attacks at home?
Yeah,
Why they killed their own
because
citizens.
terrorism on a title is probably demonetizing it. That's probably why.
We try to title all our videos terrorism.
This document in front of the Secretary of Defense for approval from the President. This is a memo prepared by the most senior leaders in the U.S. military, some of the most powerful men in the country. And they're asking for permission to execute a plan to lob mortar shells into their own military bases with some damage to installations, and then to make hijacking attempts against civilian air and surface craft. They're proposing to blow up a U.S. ship in the U.S. naval base Guantanamo Bay, and even to conduct a terror campaign on American soil.
I mean, they were doing this just in Cuba the entire time.
Yeah.
It's like pretending that this is like some big bombshell. It's like they were fucking funding terrorist attacks in Cuba for like 40, 50 years.
Yeah. And by saying and listing these just a couple of examples, he's making me like, only this is the only time it's happened. Why has it happened only now?
This is American policy towards Cuba forever.
Just to everything.
But maybe he'll say that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll better it out. Maybe.
No, come on. He's going to say great things.
Loading a few plastic explosives in
Johnny subscribes to my YouTube channel, so I'm going to say nice things about him this entire time.
Yeah, true. We love our fans.
Yep.
and spots. We're looking at a plan to blow things up on American soil and then to blame it all on Cuba.
The Cuban people have not yet spoken their final piece.
This operation never happened, but it almost did, and that gets to a big question. Why would some of America's most powerful leaders charged with safeguarding our nation think that their duty would require them to lie to and terrorize the American people? In other words, why were they planning Operation Northwoods?
It is not the first time that communists...
That's so unlike them. Yeah. That's so... It's so strange that they would do such a thing.
He outlined immediately that they didn't do it.
Yeah.
He was just like, this is what they were planning, and they didn't do it. But why did they want to?
Yeah, but why did they want to do that? That's so strange. Let's glance over that. Maybe, I don't know, or maybe the rest of the video will be about justifications for it. Who knows? Maybe he won't. He's gonna defeat the CIA allegations in this video.
I think he's going to.
I want to believe it. Okay, I think it's gonna be a good video. That's my take. Okay. The question you should be asking is, why not? Yeah, exactly. It's like, why would the HasanAbi broadcast serve a top-of-the-hour ad break at the top of every hour for 3 minutes? You know, why would they do that? Is it to get subscriptions? Maybe. Is it because he has a contractual obligation? Maybe. How could you avoid those ad breaks, I ask? Well, you can subscribe for $5 or free with a Twitch Prime, or by getting gifted a sub. Just determine ad break now.
Tanks have rolled over gallant men and women. Let the record show that our restraint is not inexhaustible.
Eyes only.
Before we dive into today's kind of insane video, I need to thank the sponsor, who I'm very grateful for.
BetterHelp,
BetterHelp for sponsoring.
Yeah, BetterHelp.
For
how did you get it?
3 years.
He loves. He
loves BetterHelp.
He loves therapy.
I love BetterHelp.
Let's dive back into Operation Northwoods. Operation Northwoods was a response to a problem the U.S. government had. They called it the Cuba problem.
Fuck up the...
Destroyed.
Cuba became a problem for the CIA when they watched this young activist with an affinity for cigars lead a communist revolution on the island, throwing out the American-friendly dictator and nationalizing all the valuable land and industries that American businesses had been getting rich off for decades. This was the Cold War, and communism was now 90 miles away, threatening to spread to other countries in Latin America. Countries that...
Yes, there's going to be echo. Shut the fuck up. Dude, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. I mean...
Did he just delete him there?
No, one of the mods banned them because like they just can't fucking be normal. Like they just hear a little bit of echo because like obviously the mics have no noise gate, and they just lose their fucking mind. We call them audio perverts, and sometimes depending on how freakish they get, audio pedophiles actually. Yeah. Going forward, if you're an audio pedophile and you scream about echo for a long enough time and we ban you, you have to make a ukulele apology video about how toxic the train was.
That American businesses also wanted to continue controlling and exploiting. And any day, this new leader could align with the Soviet Union, giving the US's biggest geopolitical rival a military base within breathing distance of Florida. So this was what the Joint Chiefs called their Cuba problem. The US had a few solutions to their problem. First, they put an embargo on Cuba, blocking all US exports to the country.
So nicely
except for
made.
food.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
what's so
Oh,
annoying
he's
about
such
his
a
fucking CIA propaganda.
Dude, I know.
No, I mean, it's not
I've
so
said the
bad.
exact same thing. As like a content creator, you have to appreciate how well edited his videos are.
He doesn't. Does he?
I
do
get
it?
why the World Economic Forum pays this man. Okay, I would too.
It's not that bad so far.
No,
He
it's not
hasn't
that
said
bad.
anything to.
Yeah, that's true.
Second, they stopped buying Cuba's largest export, sugar. This actually ended up backfiring when the Soviet Union stepped in to buy Cuban sugar, kicking off an economic alliance between these two communist countries, exactly what the US didn't want. And third, the US started making plans. Lots of plans. Plans to somehow get rid of Castro, to turn Cuba back into the American business-friendly client state, through whatever means necessary. In one of these secret plans,
To be fair, like, I think it's still relevant. Maybe I'm being overly critical, but like, you know, the United States arming Batista leading up to the revolution is probably significant. He didn't really mention it that much. He just briefly glanced past it where he was like, well, US-backed dictatorship was overthrown by the communists.
They had crazy schemes in Cuba. Like they were doing so many terrorist attacks in Cuba, like with exiles and other people. What did they do? They were kidnapping kids. They did wild shit.
That was just a dude. That's the train leaving manipulation station.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Excuse me.
But it's just funny to focus on something that like might not have happened as the example.
He said
Instead
the
of all
U.S. friendly, not even back. That's true. He did say U.S. friendly. He didn't say the U.S. backed dictatorship. Also, don't pet her while she's up there because I don't want her. I don't want her
she's
getting up there.
irresistible.
Okay, get
I
down.
know.
Okay, Kaya, that's my
Kaya,
back.
down,
That's my back.
down, off. No, down, sit. Good girl. No jumping.
called Operation Zapata. The CIA recruited 1,500 Cuban exiles who fled to Miami during the Cuban Revolution. It was this little CIA-funded army called Brigade 2506, and the goal was to have them invade Cuba and remove Castro from power.
This is the Bay of Pigs.
So the CIA trains them at
Might be
this
a
camp in
previous
the
one.
mountains of Guatemala, where they had just recently executed a coup and installed a US-friendly dictator. And right in the middle of the planning stages of this operation, JFK wins the presidency.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And he inherits this scheme to invade Cuba using exiled Cubans. The CIA briefs him on it, this plan to fix the Cuba problem by forcibly unseating Castro using Cuban exiles. And after some debate, JFK approves the plan. So on the 17th of April, 1961, they launched their invasion. Brigade 2506 landed on Playa Girón with the plan to invade the island.
I'll never forgive JFK for half measures, dude. What a fucking pussy. That's why you can't have a Catholic as president. You know what I mean?
He should
Anyway.
have nuked them.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? Wait, that literally was a suggestion.
Oh, one of the.
Yeah, no, that was unironically a suggestion. No, they wanted to test out their fucking nuclear capabilities. That literally was a plan.
It's too close to home, though. You do it,
doesn't matter.
radiation blows back. You destroyed Florida.
That was okay. Well, I don't know if they were planning that far ahead. They were more like, we have some sick weapons. Why don't we just use them?
Island and spark a popular...
Also, we kind of bombed ourselves a little bit too. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, we've
you
tested it a lot. So that's. I don't think that's gonna stop anybody.
revolution against Castro.
The assault has begun on the dictatorship of Fidel Castro. Landings were effected by rebels at several...
But it was a complete failure. Castro had found out about the invasion ahead of time. A radio station on the beach had spotted the invading ships arriving and called for help. Several of the invading ships sank on the coral reef, and the invading forces were met with immediate resistance from Cuba.
For the record, Cuba and even Venezuela has been thwarting
So many, yeah.
so many
invasions.
amphibian invasions. Like they're pros at it.
Armed forces who defeated them within 3 days. Most of them were captured. 9 U.S. servicemen actually flew combat missions in support of this invasion, 4 of which were shot down and killed in the process, something the U.S. government and the CIA would go on to deny for almost 30 years. But the point is that this invasion
Why
failed
would they do that?
miserably,
Why would they do that?
and JFK and his administration
I
were
don't
to
get it.
blame.
For too long, we have fixed our eyes on traditional military needs,
Weird.
on armies prepared to cross borders, on missiles poised for flight. Now it should be clear that this is no longer enough.
JFK would later fire the CIA director, holding him responsible for the disastrous invasion plan that we know as the Bay of Pigs. But this didn't change anything. The US government was still obsessed with removing Castro from power. They just needed a new plan. So JFK initiates his own plan, called the Cuba Project, aka Operation Mongoose. Over the next year, the CIA employs hundreds of spies to collect intelligence on Cuba. They send submarines on recon missions to Cuban waters. They fund anti-Castro protest movements, spreading propaganda throughout the country. They sabotage Cuban infrastructure to create chaos. And they make dozens more plans to assassinate Castro directly, including preparing
I love that we're watching a video about America's like insane fucking response, and you go, "It's actually problematic how tanky your chat gets when Castro gets brought up." What do you? Whose community are you a part of? Like, what are you saying? Like, even Johnny Harris is like, "This shit was fucked up," and I love the CIA. Okay.
They're talking about invading another country. That's what they're
Yeah.
talking about.
No,
Is this bait? Like, I'm confused.
I'm pretty sure Castro brought tanks into Czechoslovakia in the 50s. It's a tanky country.
Yeah, no, that's what they were doing. I'm joking. Oh, okay. Jesus Christ.
poisonous pills to be planted in a beverage to be drunk by Castro. They even hired the American mafia to deliver the pills, knowing that the mafia had their casinos kicked out of Havana during the revolution and would want revenge. But none of this worked. The assassination attempts all fell apart. Fidel Castro still remained in power.
They also killed heaps of
and his
civilians
support
by bombing
wasn't
hotels
wavering.
in Cuba.
And the US military was getting desperate. They needed to solve the Cuba problem before the Soviets could get more involved on the island. So after all these botched assassination attempts and failed invasions, the Joint Chiefs of Staff concluded that the only way to get rid of Castro was for the US military itself to invade Cuba and take him out. But they knew that the US public would not support an outright invasion. They needed to create a reason, a justification. And this gets us back to our document. The one that went to the Secretary of Defense for the President's approval. This cover and deception plan to make attacks on American targets, fake attacks that will be blamed on Cuba to raise tensions between the US and Cuba to justify an invasion, a legitimate provocation as the basis for a US military intervention in Cuba. In other words, a lie to the American public and the international community, a series of false flags to get what they wanted, and all detailed in this classified document that was only meant for a few people, with hopes that the president would approve in the spring of 1962.
If the nations of this hemisphere
They've
made
done
their
so well.
commitments against outside communist
Don't let her bite your
penetration,
fingers.
then I
Forgot
want
you
it
could say
clearly
that.
understood that this government will not hesitate in meeting its primary obligations, which are to the security of our nation.
So let's see what this plan actually says. It starts with the US military base at Guantanamo Bay, where they would start rumors using fake radio stations and get American-friendly locals to stage fake attacks on the base, starting riots in the surrounding area. Another proposed part of the plan was to blow up a US ship and blame it on Cuba. This was specifically called out as a, quote, remember the Maine incident,
do this in
referencing
Vietnam?
the sinking of an American
Tonkin.
warship in Cuba in the late 1800s that the US used to justify intervening in Cuba back then to fight the Spanish. This is often thought of as a planned sabotage to justify the intervention. And here was the US military in the 60s at it again. The document predicts that the newspapers would start reporting on the casualties, causing a helpful wave of national indignation. They also wanted to create a fake terrorist campaign on American soil in Miami or Washington. They wanted to sink boats of Cuban refugees and stage the shooting of refugee targets, and even suggested exploding a few plastic bombs in American cities. These weren't all going to be pretend. They even say in the document that they would go to the extent of wounding people and then making fake arrests with prepared documents so it could all be widely publicized, making Cuba
They would never do that on September 11, 2001. in order to launch a global war on terror, as they had already charted out Iraq as exploitable territory, ripe with natural resources such as oil.
Never.
That would never happen.
That doesn't make sense at all.
I would never say that is what happened.
So
I
it
would
seem
not.
like an 80-year-old Johnny Harris uncovering those documents.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, why would America do this? Why would they allow CIA assets that were trained on U.S. soil, who openly stated that they didn't need to learn how to land a plane, only to fly one and take off? Why under the watchful eye did this happen? I guess it was just miscoordination amongst agencies.
They're goofy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Surely they did not have months to prepare. Okay.
Look like an irresponsible government worthy of American intervention. They thought through having American Air Force pilots fly over places like Nicaragua and drop bombs on cane fields to burn them down using weapons from the Soviet Union.
Yeah, because
Why
like,
Nicaragua?
like if you can't use it for your own good, because you have an embargo, you got to blow it. You got to blow it up. I don't think I think they're saying like they're going to do cane burning raids at night in Cuba, not in Nicaragua.
Did they?
But for this to work, they would have to be flying Cuban military-style aircraft.
Oh, never
They would
mind.
need to
They were going to use.
pretending
Oh,
that
they were going to
Cuba's
use Cuban
invading
aircraft.
Nicaragua.
Like, okay.
To ensure that their planes were properly painted, they would also use these planes to harass American civilian aircraft, making it look like it was the Cubans doing this. They planned a fake hijacking of commercial planes to blame the Cuban government, or to fake shooting down a civilian airliner. And if that wasn't enough, the Joint Chiefs planned to create an incident which will make it appear that communist Cuban jets have destroyed a U.S. Air Force aircraft while it was flying over international waters in an unprovoked attack. Operation Northwoods was a reckless plan to lie and hurt people, proposed by top government.
Which the U.S. military has never done and would not ever do ever again, specifically not on September 11th, 2001. They would stop saying that. They would never do that to launch a war on terror, a global war on terror, which was a reallocation of more than $7 trillion of funds directly into the military-industrial complex. That would never happen. Let's keep going.
Government leaders who were more and more desperate to invade Cuba. And they wanted to move fast. They say in just a few months. They needed to do this so that this attack wouldn't involve the Soviet Union, who still hadn't established any defense pact or military bases in Cuba. So what we're looking at here is the increasing desperation of the US military to achieve its goal, to solve the Cuba problem. If JFK would just approve this plan, then the military would get to work, blowing things up, attacking their bases, and terrorizing the American people. But he rejected it. Operation Northwoods never happened.
Never happened, guys.
And then he got killed.
JFK's rejection of this plan is one reason that there was a rift between him and the military, with the military wanting to take a hard line on Cuba,
What
and
happened?
JFK feeling the sting.
Wait, what happened to JFK? I can't remember.
Isn't he running for
Lost
president
to
now?
Cuba?
Yeah.
think
Oh,
he's-
that was his
yeah.
son. Yeah. He's a wonderful guy. Yeah.
He's jacked, isn't he?
He's Jack.
Yeah, he's
jacked.
jacked.
Yeah.
He's jacked. He's swell. He lived a long life after that, so that's cool. That was cool when that happened.
Of the Bay of Pigs invasion, thinking that something like this was too much of a risk. A month later, another document came to him, the Joint Chiefs following up with another memo saying that the only way to remove the communist regime was military intervention by the United States, and that Cuba was a vital base of operations for espionage, sabotage, and subversion against other countries in the region. The fear was that communism would spread across Latin America because of this, and time is running out. The rift between JFK and the military continued during the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the Joint Chiefs hoped to deploy nuclear missiles against the Soviets and invade Cuba. But JFK stood up to the military once again and said no. JFK eventually went on to deny General Lehman Lemnitzer another term as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, likely because of his leading role in planning Operation Northwoods. And looking at this bizarre episode in American history, you might feel like this is a moment where our
So out of
No, it's a
character.
bizarre because it's so unique,
Yeah, it's out of play.
and it's never.
Just because someone made a mistake doesn't make them a bad person. You
Yeah,
heard the
exactly. They remember when they busted out the ukulele, the CIA. Yeah, I remember George H.W. Bush busting out the ukulele or busting something else out. Why was he in Dallas on that beautiful day, beautiful morning. Who knows? At the grassy knoll. I don't know. He can't recall where he was. Never mind. So he probably wasn't anywhere near that.
System worked. Military leaders tried to abuse their power to launch an unprovoked and illegal invasion of another country, and the president stopped them. Checks and balances, right? But the reality is, all these men have the same goal. Castro out of power and Cuba under their control again. Their disagreement was one of just a few degrees. The means, not the ends. The reality is that the US was one man, just one person, away from this operation happening, from a full-scale invasion. If JFK had lost the presidency to Nixon, would Operation Northwoods have happened? We can't say conclusively, but it certainly raises the probability. But what's more...
I don't think so.
It wouldn't have happened.
It's just a strange thing to say that because
I don't even
billion wars at once. Like
it definitely would have. You guys think they definitely would have happened? I don't know. Nixon was a dengist or Maoist. Nixon was
so sad.
Famous Maoist. also took him down because he wanted to. He was too friendly with the Chinese.
More startling is that outside of a few norms and some ideas about government,
I think
nothing fundamentally has changed in our government. The political military machine still runs on the same software it did in the 60s. If the US government felt like it and had a big enough...
If it would have happened, you also have to argue that the Iraq invasion wouldn't have happened if Al Gore won, which is very improbable. I mean, I don't know.
Enemy, a big enough threat to American interests, it could happen again.
I mean,
literally
Iraqi
constantly
regime
happening.
has plotted to develop anthrax and nerve gas.
This is the most base Johnny Harris video I've ever watched.
It's not bad.
But then again, it is declassified stuff that he's covering, which is pretty basic.
Yeah.
Still,
Talk about it once it's released.
That's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was pretty
great.
fire.
I think that's all right.
I mean, the only issue is that he focuses on something that didn't happen, apart from all the things that they were doing the entire time to Cuba.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit silly.
But also just the idea if a country's willing to go to war and kill hundreds of thousands of people, the idea that they're not willing to kill a few of their own civilians is just...
Yeah.
There's no difference. I don't care.
He did not imply that
They did not.
JFK's. No, he did not imply that they did. Well, he is kind of saying
Hey,
that.
there's George Bush at the end. What are you talking about?
And nuclear weapons.
No, he's only talking about the invasion of Iraq,
States
which
like
again
these
is
and their
openly
terrorist
discussed,
allies
openly talked about.
constitute an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world.
Cool. Your CIA allegations really got to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He did address it. Did you know that?
What?
Really?
Oh yeah, he did a YouTube short about it.
About you?
I think it was just it was a funny quip of people being. I think someone people kept spamming him that video of me. Oh, here it is.
Popular. You're gonna be popular.
What?
He didn't address it.
Oh, no.
He did not. He just went, maybe.
He just did the LeBron meme.
Yeah, he did.
But also, I can't criticize him. He's subscribed to my YouTube channel. So.
He is?
Yeah, so.
Fuck, you can't say anything wrong. He's
Johnny, I
not
love
subscribed.
you.
I don't think he's subscribed to my YouTube channel, so I can say whatever I
Because
want.
you're an asset too.
Actually, I don't know. I want to see if maybe he is.